A shot was fired. According to official records, the distance it came from did not exist. But the target fell, and in that moment, everyone felt the same thing. Something from the past had returned. If the distance wasn't on the map, where did the shot come from? Night pressed down on the border zone. Wind dragged dry soil across metal equipment, leaving a sharp, metallic hum in the air. The task force was multinational, different uniforms, same silence. Eyes stayed glued to screens. Thermal feeds were live. Laser measurements confirmed. Wind tables recalculated. Everything looked perfect. Textbook. Then a single sound. Short, dry, final. The target collapsed. For 1 second, the world paused. In that pause, the smell of gunpowder mixed with dust. The shot was perfect, but perfection didn't answer the questions. Radios erupted at once. Coordinates requested. Ballistics loaded. Distance calculated. Recalculated. Every system returned the same result. Impossible. From that angle, at that range, with that wind, no shot could land. Young soldiers stared at the screens. Veterans looked at each other. In those glances was recognition. We've seen this before, but no one spoke. Because speaking created records. Wind intensified. Dust crept between teeth. Hands trembled, not from cold, but from confrontation with the impossible. What if the math was right, and the map was wrong? Satellite imagery was pulled. Current maps. Then older ones. 5 years back. 10. That's when a blank space appeared. A void. Between border lines, something used to exist. A veteran whispered it first. That was a base. Official records listed nothing. Only a note. Access restricted. No explanation. No reason. Tension spread through the unit. Because everyone knew one truth. Places are erased to erase mistakes. What if this shot was not an attack, but a reminder? Near midnight, patrol lines tightened. No one approached the edge of the map, but the ballistic trace pointed directly into that erased zone. Footprints were visible, not scattered, not rushed, pressed deep, intentionally. Sensory details took over. Vision failed, but sound sharpened. A distant metallic creak, the smell of old lubricant, rust, not modern equipment. This place wasn't abandoned. It was aged. A base can be closed, but footprints don't lie. Command sealed the reports. The incident was labeled a ballistic anomaly, a word veterans understood well. There is an explanation. You're not allowed to hear it. Young soldiers relaxed. Veterans didn't, because anomalies repeat. At dawn, no one approached the impact site. But from a distance, one thing stood out. The wind alignment was perfect, as if the shooter knew exactly when the wind would break. That kind of knowledge isn't learned overnight. It's earned over years. Personnel archives opened. Names from the closed base surfaced. Retired. KIA. Missing. Some names had nothing beside them. No status. No closure. A veteran finally spoke. Some didn't die. They disappeared. No one disagreed. The wind fell silent, and silence felt heavier than gunfire. If someone survived, why speak now? Before sunrise, a brief radio signal broke through. Not a voice. Not a code. Just a frequency. An old one. Used only by that base. Decommissioned, the operator said. Yes, but not silenced. The unit stared toward the erased zone. Heat shimmered across the sand. Not a mirage. A distance. The distance was erased, but it was still aimed from. Days later, the operation was buried, units reassigned. Files archived, but veterans carried the same thought to sleep. The shot was a warning. Months passed. Then years, until another operation. Another impossible calculation. This time, there wasn't one shot, and the target was inside the command chain. The second shot was closer, more deliberate, personal. The distance still didn't exist, but the message did. This wasn't enemy fire, it was an internal reckoning. Archives reopened. The truth surfaced. The erased base housed a failed mission, a miscalculated distance, a wrong order, a team that never returned, officially listed as missing, but some were never missing. What if one of them survived? Night returned. Wind rose again. Sand tried to erase the tracks, but they held, as if someone was saying, "Look closely." No third shot came, but everyone understood. This wasn't over. Distances that don't exist don't seek revenge. They demand remembrance. And when the erased distance is finally named again, we'll know who was being aimed at all along. When the second shot was fired, no one spoke of an anomaly anymore, because the bullet didn't hit a target. It hit a decision. And this time the question was simple. Who was trying to hide what? If the first shot was a reminder, the second was a reckoning. The atmosphere inside the command center thickened. The screens displayed the same numbers again, a distance that didn't exist on any map. But this time, the target wasn't somewhere out there, it was inside the chain of command itself. Radio static mixed with accelerating breaths. No one raised their voice. Shouting would have betrayed fear. The veterans remained silent. The younger soldiers were full of questions. The same ones. How? From where? Who? There were no answers, only the metallic taste of gunpowder and a past so heavy it could be felt even in the artificial cold of the air conditioning. A distance had been erased, but those who knew the distance were still alive. This time, the archives weren't unlocked. They were forced open. Authority chains were bypassed. Password walls collapsed. Sealed folders appeared on the screen. The base's real name surfaced. Beside it, a single word, urgent. Below that, a date. On that date, a distance had been miscalculated. An order had been wrong, and a team had never returned. The record said, missing. But there was another absence, the timestamp on the final report. It had been added minutes after the shot, as if someone had rewritten reality after it happened. If the reports were written afterward, then who was still alive that night? The decision was made to return to the field. Unofficial. A small team. Few words. More listening than talking. They walked past where the map ended. Boots pressed into sand. The sand answered. Wind passed through metal remains, leaving behind a thin whistle. It wasn't the sound of an active base. It was the breathing of a place abandoned. A half-buried tower, a rusted generator, and on a wall, a faded marking, a range table, wind directions, firing angles, distances, all corrected by hand. The dates on those corrections matched the night of the losses. Someone had seen the mistake that night, and someone had silenced them. The answer was written in the sand, footprints leading away from where the map ended back toward where it began, as if someone had walked away saying, "My work is done." The wind didn't erase the tracks. They were too deep, too intentional. One veteran whispered, "He didn't take revenge." Another replied, "He reminded them." What was being remembered? A name or a distance? The truth was finally recorded. The closed base never returned to the map, but the distance did. No longer a number, but a lesson. A lesson that every miscalculated step will one day return. The shooter was never revealed, and didn't need to be, because there were no heroes in this story. Only a unit, a mistake, responsibility, and a long overdue reckoning. Distances that don't exist on maps don't seek revenge. They remind, and that day, everyone learned the same thing. You can erase a distance, but you can never erase the truth that comes from it.